Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our midday live broadcast. For those of you that are coaching students, send me a message on LinkedIn, and I will send you the case studies that we introduced last night in boot camp. I had mentioned last month that we were in the process of changing platforms, and the reason that none of the recorded sessions for last night's, actually for this entire boot camp, were not there is because they moved all of them over to the new platform. And so I understand that the platform, they reinstalled them. So you can go over and all of the information is there. Again, I have arranged special downloads of the case studies that you'll be able to download. So for those of you that are coaching students, just send me a message on LinkedIn that you'd like the boot camp case studies, and I'll send them over to you. I'm also coming up with a case project launch company case study. So we'll have specific project launch scripts for my company, because each company has a different compensation plan. The numbers are different. Just send it over to Debbie, send it over to me on LinkedIn. Let me unmute Bobby.
Hey, Max.
Hi, Bobby. So what was the reason? Was there any reason given?
The only thing I've heard, Max, is they say just cause. So I don't know exactly what the details are. I know that the individual has already gone out. It sounds like there will be a lawsuit that will take place. That kind of shook my wife up just a little bit. I said, do you know how many times the county highway department's been sued? And that's just kind of standard procedure on these things. So, and even how many times her employer had been sued. So I don't see it all as negative news. They did have a Zoom meeting today that was from the CEO talking about the future and did not address any of that whatsoever, which I was kind of kudos to them on their stance and their leadership, and still preparing everything for 2024. But he is one of the faces of the company.
Okay, do me a favor, send me the name of the distributor over on LinkedIn.
Hey, sure will.
Check it out. Now, there's always two sides to every story, and the company, for the most part, has to protect the company. And when a distributor, a top distributor, is engaged in any kind of an activity that can jeopardize the solidity, the company, then they don't have any choice but to terminate them. And of course, it typically involves a lawsuit, because one of the distributor agreements is that the company can terminate any distributor for just cause. And of course, the question always is, what's just cause? A lot of times a new company will, to get started, they will bring in some big names to get the company going. And then one of the big distributors who does his job, at some point in time, they come back and they come back and say, well, thank you very much, which usually involves a lawsuit. So, but your company's been around for a long time, and they're not about to do anything risk the company. So, your wife, everybody just has to realize that, these things happen. Now, one of the things that you have to be aware of is that when a leader, a big leader, well-known leader in the company gets terminated, two things are going to happen. One, they typically don't go away quietly.
Mhm.
And they're going to make a lot of noise. They're going to find another deal, and they're going to look to take as many people as they can, which puts at risk the organizations of the other leaders, which is why the company is doing what the company is doing. They're circling their wagons. They're letting all the leaders know that, we're not going anyplace. And then you just have to circle the wagons yourself, remind your leaders and your people, not so much the customers, because the customers aren't going to go anywhere.
Right.
It's the leaders and the business builders. And the company is doing exactly what companies have to do when they terminate someone. I remember years ago, Randy Gage, who was an icon in the industry for years, cut a deal with a company called Agile, and he was their big spokesperson. And he had a deal with them for stock that was going to have X value at the end of a time period. I think it was 8 or 9 years. And when the time for Randy to get his compensation, the company didn't give him the money. They gave him a fraction of what he was promised. And so he left. And the interesting thing is that he made his announcement on social media, big announcement on Facebook. And that's the one thing that everybody has at their fingertips, that prior to social media came along, companies could get away with murder and nobody would ever know, or the news would trickle out slowly. Not anymore. And as a result of Randy's leaving, year after year after year, the company, their income went down, their business went down. But we're talking about Modere. So Modere just terminated one of their big leaders, and now, of course, they're circling the wagons. This is not unique. It's not something that is meant to put into question the solid nature of a company. If someone, network marketing companies, you all have to understand something, that network marketing companies are liable for the actions of their distributors.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if a distributor does something that comes to the attention of the Federal Trade Commission, I've probably seen this happen maybe 15 times, over the last 28 years. One of the biggest ones was Fortune High Tech Marketing.
Mm-hmm. Got caught there too.
Right. So I got emails from half a dozen leaders in October. I think it was October of 2014. They had just gotten emails from their uplines who were resigning because some things were brought to their attention. And they all sent them to me. They went, well, what does this mean? And when I read it, we had a training that night, and I said to everybody, I said, look, you can never tell what's true or what's not true. However, if only 10% of this is true, the company's toast. There's no, and in fact, I gave it until March. I said, the company won't be here in March. The government will come in, shut them down. Well, they came in February and closed them because of the actions of 4 of the biggest distributors in the company. The other leaders, were not aware of it, or if they were aware of it, they weren't saying anything about it. And that's one of the reasons why companies always look at the actions of their distributors. Last year, the Federal Trade Commission sent out warning letters to 27 different network marketing companies, warning them that they were responsible for the actions of their distributors when it came to income claims, when it came to product results. And for those of you that are in Melaleuca, they sent a letter to Melaleuca. It was listed as one of the companies. So I've maintained for years that, yes, the company insists we are not a network marketing company. We are a consumer direct company. But the whole world looks at Melaleuca and considers them to be a network marketing company. So when you ask somebody to qualify them, what experience have you had with network marketing? People can relate to that. But if you ask somebody, what do you know about consumer, what experience have you had with a consumer direct company? They're going to go, I don't know anything about that. And then when you tell them you're with Melaleuca, they feel like you lied to them. So the question to ask every prospect is, before you talk about your business, is what experience have you had with network marketing? It's not a big deal. Now, so what, this is going to pass. Okay. But the company, by hosting a Zoom and a meeting with their leaders, is doing it for a reason. So what steps should you take for damage control? It really depends on what starts to circulate about this. In other words, in many cases, there are going to be a lot of people that will never know about it, never hear about it. They're off doing their own thing. You just need to be aware of it and, keep tabs on your leaders. It isn't necessary to bring it up unless, of course, it was a highly visible leader, someone that was really out there in front. And then you know, did the company ever say, you know, they did that for just cause? They never, did they ever, you know, give the details of the reason?
No, and I don't think they will. At least not now, because I'm sure they anticipate the lawsuit, so they're not going to get anything out there. The ones that know, I'm sure, are pretty much sworn to secrecy
Mhm.
at this point in time. So, because they don't want to be out on just cause. And I think that's very respectable of the company and the ethics behind who we're representing and who we're with. So,
Well, that's true. That's true. Um, uh, at some point in time, you need to know what they were doing. If for no other reason to secure your own position, I just want to make sure that whatever this guy was doing, you know,
that I'm not doing.
exactly, exactly, that's exactly
I can
right.
tell you're tiptoeing around that, Max.
No. Listen, I've got no, you know, it's, but for the average, you know, leader and for the average distributor, it has nothing to do, you know, with anything. It will ultimately come out, you know, the one thing about network marketing is everybody's got a big, everybody's got a big mouth,
Oh, yeah.
and somebody's going to bring it up. It's going to get out. And, so in situations like that, the only thing that you really have to do is to be aware that it happened. And in most cases, it won't affect you. But there have been instances, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, a number of old time leaders in Isogenics left. And they went to another company, and then they just started to go after everybody else in Isogenics. Hey, you know, listen, company's not the same, blah, blah, you know, and they tried to pull them away from a company that they've been with for years, try to convince them to go someplace else. And there's nothing wrong with Isogenics. Companies have ups, companies have downs. And I think we're going to see in the next 2 or 3 years, you know, companies rebound. And I think that's what you're going to see, you know, with Isogenics. This is what, by the way, this is one of the things. Yes, I do, Fred. Well, they went to a number, you know, they went to a number of companies, but there was a company that was started in February, actually, of this year, that a lot of Isogenics leaders went to. It was called the number three. Now, a lot of leaders just stopped working and were just collecting their checks. And three was the culmination of the collapse of Jeunesse. The top leader in Jeunesse last year, actually it was about this time, resigned. She had huge organizations over in the Orient. So she resigned. A number of other big leaders left. And then it was fascinating what happened. But Dallin Larson, who had started Monavie years ago, had launched a company 6 years ago called Viseo. And the company was growing. They got to a point where Dallin, for one reason or another, they never really talked about it, felt that the company had peaked and they were not able to attract other leaders. They were not really able to grow. And one of the reasons that happened is a lot of people in network marketing had bad feelings towards Dallin for what happened with Motivate. Builds up the company, brings in some investors. The company ends up borrowing a lot of money, and then it was absorbed by Jeunesse. A lot of people were unhappy about that. And, you know, it comes down to, in some cases, you know, credibility. How do we know that he's not going to do it to us again? You know, when I got involved with network marketing, I was in a company that was founded by two people that had been in 3 or 4 companies previously. And there were people that told me I wouldn't have anything to do with any company that was started by these two guys. Well, I didn't know them. I liked the company. I liked the idea. Jumped in. 4 years later, the guys dumped the company. So everybody who was in the company ended up either having to go to the new company that took over our company, or you were out. But these things happen in business. In the case of our company, there was nothing that these guys could do. Technology, literally, we're putting this company out of business. Now, granted, I mean, looking back at it now, I mean, go back 20 years, man, I was mad. But, you know, stepping back and looking at it later, there's nothing they could do. Nothing they could do. So that's why in our retreats, we talk about you're betting on management when you join a network marketing company. You're betting on market trends. So if you're a product user and you love the products and you start building an organization and a team around product users, and then one day the product's not available anymore, well, the party's over. But if you're a leader and you're building teams and you're developing people, you're making an investment in the people that you work with. This is such a unique component of network marketing. You want to be a top earner, you got to build a team, a family of people that are all devoted and committed to helping each other become successful, all around a company and a product that everybody could support. Now, if the company closes or the company goes out of business, or the company, you know, for one reason or another, the owners of the company do something that violates the understanding that you have with them from the standpoint of, are we running the company in the best interest of the distributors? They go against that, then the only thing that you have to do, the only choice you have, is to leave. And sometimes you don't have a choice because the company shuts down. Okay? And that's the part of this business that nobody ever talks about, which is the reason that I do these retreats. Because if you know the deal, if you know the ins and outs of what makes network marketing great, and you understand that all of you can hook up with leaders, with whales in other companies that are unhappy and bring them into your business. And I just did a training with one of my students who just landed a big whale. I mean, absolutely huge. They're out there. And people leave companies for all kinds of different reasons. So the company is going to go on, Bobby. All of you are going to go on. And I guess this is going to be something we'll talk about. We'll talk about in the retreat in November, because by then, the news will be out. But as a leader, you just need to be aware of what's going on and have the information to support your team members if they get hit on by other leaders looking to shake their belief in your company and want to convince them to go someplace else.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and that information, Max.
Oh, you're welcome, Bobby, and thanks for sharing that. I'm going to talk to Margie and see if I can get a little more information. And anyway, listen, for the rest of you, let me just repeat. Last night, for those of you that were in boot camp, we went in to bring up some of the recordings and the PowerPoints, and they weren't there. And the reason they weren't there is because I announced at the beginning of September that we were going to be switching over to a new platform. I expected everything to be done by October. And so we have a totally new platform where all the trainings were being stored for everybody, but they didn't finish the platform architecture. And nobody told the guy that was working with the videos. He was loading everything up into the new structure, ignoring the old one. So I got a message from them about 2 hours ago that everything is loaded back into the old platform. So you all have access to all the things that we covered. Now, last night, to share with you, with everybody, these new case studies, I glossed over a lot of material, and there were a lot of people in this boot camp that were new. And in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have done that. I mean, there's some basic fundamental information that people needed to get, but I was in such a hurry to show all of you these new case studies because they're phenomenal. And probably won't do that again. But in any event, for those of you that are coaching students, send me a message on LinkedIn, and I will send you 2 files to download. One file is going to be 8 case studies with different scripts and different concepts. The other one is going to be something that nobody has seen, and it's a project launch script. And I think we've got 5 or 6 companies in there already. We're going to be developing project launch examples for different companies where you will explain the show people the money. All right. I kind of well, Bill, better late than better late than never. This session took a totally different tack. So I'm not gonna be able to jump in and, show this, what we were talking about earlier. So I was looking for you at first. We'll get it done in the next day or two. As for the rest of you, I hope to see all of you at boot camp tomorrow night. And it's going to be a great year. It's going to be you all have an opportunity to finish up 2023 at a whole new level. Now, the Bruce Lee quote you see up here: I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. You all marvel how I can jump into somebody's account and take a prospect that hasn't been in touch with the student for months, send them a message, and they write back right away. It's an art. It's a skill that is developed with practice over time. It is a skill that every one of you can learn. And the good news is you don't have to practice 10,000 times to make it work. You really don't. So we'll be back tonight, 9 o'clock. We're doing a special broadcast where we're going to be talking about LinkedIn. It's a 4-step formula. It's part of a simple system that will take you to the top of any company. Create a profile, connect with people, communicate with them closely. Past does not equal the future. We're all stepping on the precipice of a great year. You can do more business in the next 9 months, in the next 3 months, than you've done in the previous 9. Close out the year. I've seen it happen so many times. Make 2023 your best year. Start 2024 off with an excited team and a tremendous amount of momentum. But tonight, we're going to talk about what you have to know that's happening on LinkedIn right now. Because if you don't know it, you don't understand it, and you don't know how to work around it, it's going to cripple your LinkedIn business. The changes that LinkedIn has made. There's good changes, and there's bad. We'll show all of you tonight how to work around the bad, take advantage of the good. So until next time, best of luck in building your business. God bless.